I mean, when it comes to spending, I mean, seems like Barack Obama is going to be a spendocrat. I mean, Bill Clinton really was not a spendocrat. I guess that's why I do kind of respect him. I mean, he did not have a big deficit spending. And I mean, what you got to think of is, for instance, right now we're in debt, in a deficit. I mean, when we go in a deficit, our dollar lowers, our economy lowers. It's not exactly a good idea. That's why spending too much on the government is not really a good idea, especially not when you cut taxes. And the thing is that with all of this is, I mean, we have the Chinese buying our bonds from the debts. So since we are in debt, and as Barack Obama says, I want to have the Chinese debt taken away. I mean, he's saying it. To say something is one thing, but action is another thing. And I mean, Barack Obama has policies that are very spend-worthy, and that's not what we need when we're already in current debt. I mean, even his tax, he wants universal health care. He's already, as I said, supported more troops. I mean, he's for giving more funding to religious organizations. He's for giving more money to NASA, and I mean, he's basically for universal health care and all these things, but where are we going to get the money for this? I mean, his plan is to cut the taxes on middle class and lower middle and lower class people, and to raise the taxes of the upper class. However, his upper class tax cuts, tax raises are actually, as he states, going to be the same as they were before Bush, as in 90s, as in when Clinton was in. And if we're going to lower the lower middle class taxes and then have the upper class taxes go to what they were during Clinton's time, I mean, that means that we will have a lower tax base than we did during Clinton. And as far as I'm concerned, we did not have the capabilities under Clinton, under a more tax-friendly funding coming in system like we had under Clinton. So, I mean, if we didn't have universal health care or the capability of doing it then, why do we think we can have the capability of doing it now? I think that Barack Obama's universal health care will be either one, an empty promise, or two, the death of a nation, because we don't really have, this is not the time to fuck around with the debt and to fuck around with universal health care. I mean, we need to get rid of this fucking debt first before we can fuck around with universal health care or more government spending in general. I mean, it's really not the time to fuck around with that shit, because if we go in more debt and we don't have money back shit up, then we're going to have more and more other countries buying our debt, and we're going to have basically a collapse, because the government can't afford to do everything. That's what was the downfall of the Soviets. They wanted to have extremely socialist government while having the extreme military spending, and that's the road we're going down. And that's why the Soviet Empire collapsed, because in the end, they were so socialist and military that they didn't have the food and resources to spend on their own people, and that's why they were starving to death. And we don't want that to happen here, and we don't really have the capability to do that at this moment. And if we do this universal health care as is, it will be half-assed. I mean, countries like Sweden have good universal health care. They also have double the taxes as us. And that does not include the fact that Sweden does not have a huge military budget like we have had. Sweden does not have debt as bad as us. They do not have such a huge prison system like we have. They do not have a population of 300 million like we have. I mean, Sweden has, I think, 6-7 million. Excuse me if I get the figure wrong. I mean, it's pretty good for just off the top of my head. But I mean, it's a lot easier for them to do it. And if we do that universal health care as is, with already in the debt and all the military spending that we've had, then I think it's just going to be half-assed. If we have universal health care and we do the bare minimum, which would be cutting out doctors and hospitals and not being able to do it right, then we'd be better off not having it at all, because what we have is just a half-assed universal health care where nothing would get accomplished, because we would have an even worse health care system than anyone could imagine, because it would just be half-assed. And then, like, Social Security is losing funding and it's collapsing as the baby boom gets older and as funds are not going into us. What happens if that happens to universal health care? That means you're left with nothing. I mean, that would mean they'd have to cut hospitals, doctors, everything. And you don't want to fuck around with that. In order to do this right, I'm sorry, but we have to double taxes to do it right. And with this debt to begin with, we can't really do it. So, like I said, the universal health care is going to be destructive, or it's going to be half-assed, or it's just an empty promise. And all of those I'm not very impressed with, because we don't have the capability of having universal health care right now. As I said, I mean, we will have a less funding going in now than we did under Clinton, and we didn't even have the capability of universal health care under Clinton. And that does not count the fact that Barack Obama may go into Iran. He has to finish up Iraq, and he says he's going to do military action in Pakistan with or without the government's consent. Pakistan's not Iraq. It has, like, I think 7 times more population than Iraq. Nuclear weapons. I mean, it's not going to be easy. We have to finish up what we started, and that's what I'm saying. The parallels of Obama is like Lyndon Johnson. I mean, Lyndon Johnson had the Great Leap Forward. He had Medicaid, Medicare, all these social programs, which he spent like crazy, while still creating the Vietnam War and going nuts with it. And that's why I think he's really one of the worst presidents. I mean, I'm genuinely libertarian, and I would say any libertarian pretty much hates Lyndon Johnson. I mean, I would say FDR and Lyndon Johnson are like the enemy of libertarians and conservatives in general. I mean, I at least respect FDR, and I mean, I agree with some of the things he's did. I mean, he was under Great Depression, and having people do jobs under social programs and stuff was, I think, a good idea, and not going to be criticizing him, because he did help a lot of shit. But with Lyndon Johnson, it was just crap, and the parallels of Barack Obama and Lyndon Johnson are quite similar, and I see him as, like, becoming like Lyndon Johnson, where he would just spend too much. I mean, Barack Obama wants to give our money to Eastern Bloc countries like Poland, Lithuania, Hungary, Ukraine, and give money to the governments themselves. I mean, how are we going to do all this stuff? I mean, he's not really for the little guy either. I mean, he's for doubling the loans for car motorships, like such as Ford and General Motors. And he actually is for doubling the loans that government gives out to them. I mean, he was for the bailout. I mean, he's just, as I said, a spendocrat. He wants to spend. And this is not the fucker we need when we're in debt. We don't need this kind of fucker like that when we're in debt. We need fucking Ron Paul. We need someone who will fucking fix the damn debt. Ron Paul is a fucker who knows how to get down to debt. If we had just one term of Ron Paul, I can guarantee you we'd have no fucking debt. But instead, I don't really see it. I mean, with Barack Obama, I see what happened to the Soviets during the late 80s. I mean, that's basically what I see our future resembling, because we cannot spend so much, or we will just fuck off. And if we cannot do universal health care right in the first place, then don't do it at all, because we do not need half-ass minimum bullshit like the Soviets did under communism. We don't need to have government come in and do something and do it so bad that you'd be better off having no universal health care. We need to do it fucking right, and then we have to double taxes. And I don't think any of you fuckers are for that. And that would be doubling the taxes just to get it going. Not to mention that that's already there. And that's why I think that a lot of this is just like bullshit. And I think that for anyone being totally excited about Barack and think, oh, there's huge change, is just ignorant as hell. I mean, there's not very much difference between these presidents. They all want to spend so much money on shit. I mean, we don't need to spend money when we're in debt. I mean, Barack Obama says he doesn't want the Chinese to keep buying our debts and our bonds to pay for these wars and our debts. But he's saying that, but what is he doing? He's doing the opposite. He's going to create more debt. That's not what we fucking need. You call me a fucking racist, and if he was white, Chinese, Native American, Asian, Indian, Irish, Italian, or whatever the fuck he would be, I would still not agree with his policies. Any one of you fuckers on YouTube who thinks someone doesn't like Barack Obama is a racist, here's a big fuck you to use!